All right, sweet. All right, thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Bullpen Blues. As always, I'm your co-host, Kevin Dixon, joined by our good buddy, David Esser. David, we're wild card hunting right now, dude.
Yeah, Kevin, I expected a far grander introduction for the first episode of the Phillies being a playoff team. I mean, Kevin, come on, we're a wild card team right now.
Oh, they're gonna get there, man. I've been texting you, I've been bombarding you the last I don't know, week and a half, 2 weeks that they're gonna get in. Like I've been trying to swing you. I think I'm starting to get there. Phillies Twitter starting to swing a little bit. We just gotta keep winning, man. As you can see, I haven't left Citizens Bank Park since yesterday. I'm still here. They let me record out here, so you know, if you're following along, I do have the backdrop of CBP, and we're out here winning ball games, David. Bullpen's pitching great. Derek Hall's come out of nowhere and is just mashing homers. Kyle Schwarber just keeps homering, and the Phillies just keep finding ways to win games. So it's been a little bit since they've been under 500. At least it feels that way, right?
Yeah, I mean, Kevin, it's been a rough couple of years for us. I mean, it's been a rough decade for us Phillies.
Yeah.
Right. Like let's not beat around the bush here. And there's certainly been moments where the Phillies are fun to watch, right? You talk about when Bryce Harper debuts, they have a couple stretches in 2020 and 2021 where you think to yourself, this might be a good team. Even this year, they fired Girardi. We're all fired up, for that first game. They come out swinging. But these last, I'd say 2.5 weeks where, the post Girardi firing hype dies down. Bryce Harper gets hurt, a lot of losses to the rotation. And, these are kind of the hurdles where it's like, all right, like guys are out, dudes are injured, you're playing good ball clubs. Just find a way to win. Just do it. And we're seeing it in so many different ways. Kyle Schwarber kind of becoming the unquestioned leader of this ball club right now. Guy like Derek Hall coming up, debuting in the cleanup spot, getting things done. I mean, he's been fantastic the last couple of days.
He's unbelievable, man.
He's
I
awesome.
don't really know what his future holds because he doesn't walk, and I don't really know what his ceiling will be, but he certainly has helped them a ton in the past week and a half.
Absolutely. You shift over to the bullpen and kind of the few lockdown games they've had, Kevin. This is the first time in a very long time where I'm watching them play and I'm like, all right, this might be a good baseball team.
Yeah, I mean, this is the first time since we've created Bullpen Blues that the Blues is for the other squad and not for the Phillies. And it's incredible the difference that it makes. And I actually just read Todd Zielecki piece this morning from MLB.com saying this isn't the same bullpen. Guys have settled into their role. I think they've been the best bullpen in baseball, David, in like the past 2 or 3 weeks. I would need the exact time frame, but I did see that stat as well. They were number one in a bunch of different categories. They have guys who have kind of settled into their role. And they also have guys who kind of come out of nowhere to help them, like Andrew Bellotti is a great example of that, who's kind of just he was a non-roster invite who, miraculously is still hanging around and he's still pitching really well. But to the point, it's crazy the difference that it makes when, you lose a guy like Bryce Harper. And, the biggest thing with the bullpen, the difference that they're making is, the Phillies are down 1 or 2 runs in the 6th, 7th inning, and they remain down 1 or 2 runs. Like, it's not one of those things where the lead balloons and then they're down 4 or 5 runs. It's given them the ability to come back, and this team can hit the long ball, David. So, when you stay within 1, 2, 3 runs, you're just one swing away a lot of the times from tying the ball game. So, it's certainly the formula that we've seen, and it's something that hopefully they're able to maintain. And if they can stay in this thing, where actually right now they're tied with St. Louis, but they're in because they're ahead in the loss column. They have 1 less loss than St. Louis. David, if they can stay in this thing until they get some reinforcements back, and then they make some trades, like I see no reason why they can't not only maintain there, but keep climbing up the standings, because the Padres have lost 8 out of their last 10. They're 2-8. The Phillies are only 3 games behind them. Like clustered up right there.
Yeah, and Kevin, I kind of want to circle back to a comment you made on the bullpen. because I think they are the key to them treading water. You know, like we've been talking about the bullpen for 3 straight years. It's why our podcast is the name that it is. But I love what you said about guys settling into their roles, because I think that is the biggest difference between the way Thompson manages the bullpen and Girardi managed the bullpen.
Yep.
Because it's not like they changed much. They didn't go trade for anybody. They didn't sign anybody.
Same guys.
The same guys. You know, they sent Alvarado down for a little bit. I mean, they actually lost Brogdon for a little bit, and they kept on churning along. But I think the big difference is Thompson looking at his guys, looking at what he has to work with, and being like, okay, Brad Hand, Sir Anthony, those are my leverage guys. You know, my high leverage guys, my 8th, 9th inning guys. Knievel, I'm going to use you in the 6th or 7th. Guy like Nick Nelson, I'm going to use you in the middle, but I'm not going to stretch you out for 4 or 5 innings sometimes like you're already. Like, there's no reason to punt on games in the 4th inning. You know, just say, hey, Nick Nelson, can you get me 2? Can you get me 2 solid innings? Get me 6 outs on to the next.
He's been really good in that role, David. We saw
He's
it
been
yesterday
great
too. Yeah.
And Kevin, look, if you stretch him out for a 3rd, stretch him out for a 4th inning, he's probably not going to look so great.
Going to run out of gas. Yeah.
That 2 inning mark, that's perfect. I still think this bullpen needs some reinforcements. I think you agree with me. I would love, you know, either a proper 8th inning guy or a proper closer. You bump Sir Anthony down to the 8th inning. And that's no fault to Sir Anthony. He's been awesome, but you know, just one more high leverage arm never hurts.
Well, it's a good issue to have if they added another arm like that. Like, it's
Absolutely.
good to have too many of those guys, but not enough.
And look, there's a lot of ball clubs around baseball. You know, you look at a team like the Rays or the Astros, where they have so many arms. They kind of just, you're pitching here, you're pitching there, and it doesn't matter who's pitching when, because they're all so good. That's not the Phillies. The Phillies, it kind of looks like they've taken a more old school approach to building the bullpen. You know, a guy like Brad Hand, that's a guy who, you know, would have pitched 10 years ago and been lights out just with his style. So I like how they've done it so far. Again, I think they need help, but letting guys settle in, giving them roles. I'm sure Rob, you know, Thompson had conversations with these guys saying, hey, this is when you're going to pitch, be prepared. And I definitely think, you know, baseball's such a mental game. That little switch, in my opinion, is what has helped this bullpen go from literally one of the worst in baseball to one of the best in baseball in the span of like 2 weeks.
And I think, David, you know, it's something that is getting overlooked as well as the difference that, you know, the stint in the minor leagues has done for Jose Alvarado, because he not only has he been good, Dave, since he's been back, he's been dominant. He's now going 11 straight scoreless appearances. He has 17 strikeouts and only 5 base runners in that time span. Guys are hitting 125 off him. Like, you know, he threw 14 pitches yesterday, Dave. He threw 7 cutters, 7 sinkers, 9 of which were strikes, which one, that's a big step forward because he's a guy who at times can, you know, lose the strike zone. But, you know, since switching his style and he's throwing more cutters now, I don't want to say it saved the guy's career, but it might have, you know, if he's going to pitch like this, Dave, it's a completely different animal having to face him coming in. You know, how many times have we seen, and I understand the Nationals stink, I get that, but how many times have we seen Alvarado come in and walk the first 2 guys, and then, you know, the next guy hits a big double down the line or something, and those 2 runs score? Yesterday he comes in, Dave. Like I said, I know the Nationals stink, but the heart of their order still isn't terrible. They have Juan Soto, Josh Bell, Nelson Cruz. They're 3 formidable bats. He sits them down 1, 2, 3, strikes them all out. So I mean, you know, just kind of the vibe and the aura is just different around the guy like that right now, and it's trickled into the whole roster. I mean, that's just how we kind of feel about everyone right now. And losing the way they did, not last night, the night before, that's one of those losses, Dave, where previous Phillies absolutely would have carried into yesterday because they got down early yesterday 2-0. Easily could have lost yesterday's game too. Like, that's kind of the difference. You know, it's kind of the difference with this team right now is their ability to kind of put it behind them and they can move forward.
Yeah, and something that kind of occurred to me is when Dombrowski was first hired, he overhauled the farm system in terms of the coaches, the farm director. I feel like we're kind of starting to see the benefits.
Yeah.
Connor Brogdon, it looked like he was cooked 2 months ago. Like, he could barely throw the ball 94 miles per hour, went down to AAA for a couple of weeks, come back up, he's pushing 98, 99.
Yep.
Jose Alvarado, same thing. dude can't throw strikes. He goes down to AAA, comes back, he can throw strikes. Matt Vierling couldn't hit a wiffle ball, goes
Yeah.
down to AAA, comes back up. He's one of our best players now. So
Yeah, don't diss wiffle ball, man. You can get some crazy hooks,
yeah,
and
no,
yeah, it can be tough sometimes.
couldn't hit a beach ball. Maybe that's better. So I'm glad to see little things like that because again, a dude like Alvarado, I don't know if he's a guy you want in the bullpen in the postseason going down the stretch, but you need
I'd
innings from
still,
him right now.
I would still feel queasy, man.
I, fair.
If he came out of the bullpen in a playoff big leverage spot, I
Yeah,
would be sick to my stomach.
the big lefty. But right now you need innings from him. And you're right. Yesterday that was probably the best he's looked in quite some time. So it's certainly encouraging to see. Kevin, I kind of want to switch gears here. I want to flip back over to the offense.
Yep.
And we got to talk about, in my opinion, the guy who's been the best Philly all year. This is a guy we wanted the team to sign so bad in the offseason. And we wanted them to sign him not just because of his offense, but because he had that like extra it factor. The guy knows how to win. He's always on good baseball teams. He's always ending up on good baseball teams. Everybody seems to like him. He's got all these great connections. It's that extra factor that no one in the old Phillies clubhouse had. And we're seeing it happen in real time. Bryce Harper goes down. I tweet out, the season's over. Pack it in, guys.
Yeah.
Start watching a different sport. And Kyle Schwarber says, nope, that's not what we're doing. And the guy just goes on a tear. He's still going on a tear. There was jokes of the hot streak ending when it shifted to July. It's not ending. He's on pace for 50 homers. He should be an all-star. Kevin, what the heck is going on with Kyle Schwarber right now?
I think he's just a winner, man. He's just a winner. And what's awesome, Dave, is he's one of those guys where, he's hitting 224 and you don't even realize he's hitting 224 because he's on base all the time. And all he does is hit homers, dude. And it's, I've been in the ballpark for a few of those homers. The ball is loud off his bat, loud. And the funniest thing with him too is he's not an overly big guy. Like, he's a short, stocky, like, what is he? Probably 6 foot, maybe 220 pounds. Like, he's just solid. Like, he's not like, 6'6", 245-pound guy. He's just like a short, stocky guy with like a real easy swing, Dave, and the ball goes a long way. He's had a couple homers this year where it's just like, I can't believe he hit the ball that far. He had one the other night against Washington that went into the third deck. I mean, we're watching a special talent, and it's one of those things where he's 29 years old, so he's hitting his peak, and like you said, he's always on winning teams. He knows how to win. There's a reason why the Boston Red Sox, who are notoriously a winning ball club, at least in the last 20-30 years, reached out to a quality they had targeted, and he didn't miss a beat with them. And there's a reason why Dave Dombrowski, who has proved in the past that he can win. He's won multiple times. Granted, it was a long time ago. The reason why he was singled out and targeted, and if you search his name on Twitter, how like Phillies Twitter can be. There's a lot of teams' fan bases that like will comment on their team's post about like home runs or something and be like, yeah, should have signed Schwarber. The White Sox are one that I've noticed that happens all the time. They're a team that like their fan base is like, I can't believe we didn't sign this guy. So yeah, I mean, it's hard to put into words what he's doing right now, Dave, because his home run rate is not really something we've been able to see in Philadelphia since Ryan Howard.
It's Howard-esque. Whenever Schwarber's up to the plate, you stop what you're doing and you watch. He's got 27 home runs, which is the most in the National League, the second most in all of baseball. The only player with more is Aaron Judge, and Aaron Judge is on a historically good pace at the moment. But even in terms of OPS, I want to say Schwarber's he's sitting at 875.
Yep.
Kevin, that's a higher OPS than guys like Freddie Freeman, Byron Buxton, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Like these are some Juan Soto, Trey Turner. These are some of the best hitters in baseball. And
he's an all-star, dude.
If he doesn't make the All-Star game, we got a problem because he's been unbelievable. And again, it extends past just the hitting stuff. Like the home runs, they're always big. They're always big spots. It's either to give the team an early lead, tie the game back up. It seems like he's doing a great job coaching up some of the younger guys. Again, you're seeing a guy like Matt Vierling in a real time develop into a solid baseball player. And every time I look over to the dugout, it's Kyle Schwarber in his ear, chirping,
Yeah.
talking about an at bat, talking about something. He's doing the same thing with Derek Hall. Love Schwarber, man. I'm so glad they got him again. You know, they were talking to him pre-lockout. They almost had a deal done. So the moment the offseason started, Dave Dombrowski identified who he wanted the most, and it was Kyle Schwarber. And thus far, look, I'm sure he's going to cool off a little bit. I don't care. The pace he's on, just the way he's played, especially since settling back into that leadoff spot. He's genuinely been, I mean, one of the best hitters in baseball this year.
Yeah, Dave, and I do want to pivot, stay on the offense, but I feel as if I need to give Rhys Hoskins his flowers because I'm a little nervous to do so because
Yeah, whoa, this is big.
When we did rip him, he took off. But it's more so his overall game. He's not having that bad of a defensive season. Like if you look at his defensive numbers, Dave, I think he has 2 defensive runs saved. He's not a negative. He's not hurting them like that defensively. And his WAR, he's on pace for a WAR of over 4 for the season, which would be a career best. You know, the stretch that he's on right now has been long enough where he's playing both sides of the ball well, where I do feel like I need to give the guy credit because look, if I'm going to tear you down, I can build you back up when you're winning. It's not one of those things where it's straight up just like, I want this guy to fail. So I just feel like I need to give credit where credit is due, Dave. He's been a huge part of it as well without having Bryce Harper. And he's really, instead of, disappearing, he's really stepped up. And I have to say, his defense has been much improved. It's something that I've noticed watching the game. He made a great play the other night down the line. He made a diving stop, which that's when it kind of occurred to me, like, this guy's playing pretty well defensively lately. So I had to look up his numbers, and he's not a negative, which, considering last year, I think he was -7, -8 defensive runs saved. I mean, through half the season, he's at +2. So, it's certainly a career best year as well in the field for him. So, I just kind of felt like I needed to shout him out and and just, let people know it goes both ways. I can admit when a player that, I've been very critical of has stepped up and exceeded expectations. So, Rhys Hoskins, keep it up, man. Don't make me regret this.
I was just double checking his stats. He does have a +2 defensive run saves,
Yep.
which is awesome. His defensive rating on Fangraphs is still hurting a little bit. But look, in the same breath, we talk a lot about Schwarber stepping up. Hoskins is right there. The second Harper went down, Hoskins turned it on. You look at his last 30 games, Kevin. He's hitting .314 with a .434 on base percentage.
Yeah.
That on base percentage, especially, his last 7 games, .433. His last 15, .413, and again his last 30, .434. Dude's getting on base. Yep. I'm a simple man when it comes to baseball. If you're getting on base, I don't care how you do it. I'm gonna be happy with that. Yep. The Phillies are still struggling to find good production out of the 3, 4, 5 hitters. But right now, Schwarber's getting on base. Hoskins is getting on base. Most nights, if your first 2 guys are getting on base that often, yep, you're going to score some runs. So yeah, look, I've always been hard on Rhys. Right now, this is a really, really good version of Rhys Hoskins. And this is a version that if he keeps it up and they go get some help at the trade deadline and Bryce Harper comes back, early September, maybe, that'll play. That'll be a good lineup right there.
Yeah. And he's been, like you said, like his defensive rating is still like not fantastic, which look, he's, like I said, he's just been better. Like he was horrendous defensively. He's been better. His offense has been good enough too, that it kind of brings that up because, especially at first base, you don't need to be a Gold Glover to play first base, especially if you are mashing and you're just producing offense. And that's what he's been doing. So, this version, like you said, is the type of player the Phillies need him to be. And if he can finish the year, like right now, through 82 games, he's on a pace of 34 homers, 84 ribbies, 90 runs, a WAR north of 4. I'll take that every single year, dude. I would have no issue if that's the Rhys Hoskins we get the rest of the year.
Speaking of bats at the top of the lineup, we have to switch to Nick Castellanos, who, when they signed him, I want to say we jumped on a podcast episode the very next morning. We were so excited. Everyone's thrilled. And I kind of held Castellanos in that same light as Schwarber. The concept that this is a professional hitter. All this guy wants to do is win. He's just a pro. He's going to battle through any slump. He's going to go on a crazy hot streak and be one of the best players in baseball for a month. And we're sitting here in early July, and it's still just tough. His WAR is amongst the worst of all outfielders, starting outfielders in the National League. He's just really struggling. Kevin, I think the thing that frustrates me the most with Castellanos is it looks kind of lazy at times, like disinterested. He's swinging at pitches that are 5 feet off the plate, that are skipping in the dirt in front of him. Any slider down and away, he's just going to wave at.
Yeah.
It's a lot of non-competitive at bats. He's not doing the little things. We're not seeing a lot of sac flies or moving the runner or working walks or working deep counts, things that'll get you out of a slump. It's just tough to watch. And I'm kind of curious, Kevin, like, is the breakout coming? Are we going to get a massive hot streak? Like, what's the holdup here?
I sure hope so, man. Like you said, I saw a stat. I can't find it now. One of the Phillies writers tweeted it out, essentially showing his chase rates through the roof. He's seeing way more sliders. He's lunging at everything, Dave. There's no power in his swing. He's falling out of his shoes trying to hit everything to the left side of the infield. And even like his productive at bats when he does produce runs are like broken bat singles or, ground one weakly through the shift on the right side. Like the bigger concern for me, Dave, because he is hitting 250, which obviously is not great, but he's still been hitting a tiny bit. There is absolutely no power in his game right now. Like that's the biggest concern to me. And I'm not even saying it in the sense of I expected him to hit 35 homers and, drive at 130 runs, but I expected him to hit more doubles. I expected him to put together better at bats. His own base percentage is under 300, which is just atrocious. We can't have that. I'm not really sure where we go from here, but it can't stay like this. I even had mentioned the other day, they need to move him down. You cannot keep him third. I had someone push back of, well, they don't have an option. I'm like, sure they do. I could easily move him down. Like I said to you, move JT up. Maybe it'll help both guys. I don't know. Like the status quo in terms of Castellanos just isn't working. He did make a good defensive play yesterday, but he's horrendous out in right field. I wonder how much of it is impacted by he didn't want to play the field and he was not expecting to play the field this much, which he's pretty much had to do every day for the last 2.5 months. So I don't know. I mean, I'll tell you what, though, they're stuck with him. So, we'll see what happens. He's going to be here. So let's hope that
he's not going anywhere.
Let's hope that he can turn it around. And, for all the people that are like, yeah, trade him. It's not how it works. He's not going anywhere. And in the same breath for the people who want him traded, who the hell's taking him with the way he's playing right now? Like you see a lot of people do that. Like, oh, you got to get rid of this guy. Get rid of him. He stinks. Okay. If he stinks, then why the hell what value does he have? Who's going to trade for him? Like you see that all the time. But yeah, I don't know, man. I feel like it gets brushed under the rug to an extent because of how good Schwarber's been. Rhys Hoskins has been good, and the Phillies are winning baseball games. David, if they were where they were, when the calendar flipped to June and they were 8 games under right now, this conversation would be much different. Much different.
Yeah, you mentioned the fact that you didn't expect Castellanos to be like a 30 home run guy. Like, I don't know, Kevin, I kind of did. He's coming to a park that's notorious for being hitter friendly, batting, once upon a time behind Bryce Harper, Kyle Schwarber in front of him in the lineup, Hoskins in front of him in the lineup. He's going to see a lot of pitches coming off a silver slugger year in his athletic prime. Like, he looks like he's in great shape. I certainly expected a big season. Let
me preface that. I would 30 for me would have been on the higher end, just based on his career numbers. But I expected 25. Yeah. With 40 doubles. Like I expected that kind of season. Sorry to interrupt.
No, you're good. And I completely agree with the lack of power. I mean, I feel like the dude's flown out to the warning track 20 times this year. And it's very confusing because he's in good shape. I mean, he's probably one of the more built guys on the team just in terms of his stature. Maybe his stamina is just cooked from standing out in right field every day. But like, he did play the outfield last year. and he's played the outfield most of his career. This isn't. It's not like they took a DH and said, "Hey, go stand in the outfield now." Like he was an outfielder in Cincinnati, and he was a decent one for what it's worth.
Maybe he should have went to college, bro.
Yeah, maybe.
Because he said, "I don't go to college. I just man hit baseball." So well, you're not hitting
Not
baseball. So
in baseballs. I mean, Kevin, if you pull up his baseball savant page, and for anyone listening at home, go pull up his baseball savant page and look at some of his percentile rankings. He's 19th percentile in hard hit percentage. Like, he is not hitting the baseball hard at all. You mentioned his chase rate. He's in the 5th percentile on chase rate. He's
yeah, I know
swinging at
it's through the
everything.
roof. I knew that.
His average exit velocity is 29th. So he's swinging at everything. And when he does make contact, he's not hitting the baseball hard.
His whiff percentage is high too.
His whiff percentage, yeah, he's all the way down to the 13th percentile. And I'm not even going to touch on his defense because it is some of the worst in the league right now.
And it's not even like David that he's getting screwed. Like, if you looked at his expected home runs, it's 7.7.
Yeah.
So it's right in line where he's at. Like, it's not as if, this guy's getting robbed. He should have 5 more homers. He's actually has 1 more homer than he should have.
Yeah, he's very simply just not hitting the ball hard enough.
And he only has 1 no doubter.
Yeah.
I mean, the stats don't lie.
Like I said, if he was hitting 250, but he had, 20 home runs right now, it's a different conversation.
Exactly.
But he doesn't. He's hitting 250. And like you said before, it's slap singles, broken bat bloops, hits it against the shift, which are fine. Like, I like those too. And that was something that made Castellanos unique, is he could hit for power, but his average was always very high for most of his career. Right now, his average is low, his power is low, his defense is bad. And look, I love the point you made about, quote unquote trading him, because it's not even possible. It's not even feasible. He's likely going to retire a Philly.
Yeah.
But also
yeah.
In the same breath, like, that I don't even think that helps the Phillies, because the best case scenario is Castellanos figures it out. Then you have that middle of the bat, all-star, silver slugger, one of the best hitters in baseball. Trading him away, they're still stuck without a 3-hole hitter. They don't have anyone to really put there. As you were talking about, I thought, maybe like Matt Vierling, throw him up there. I think he's probably their best option. He can't even get everyday reps out in center field right now. But I think, it's just one of those things. There's still a lot of baseball left, and you hope Castellanos heats up. And then if you get to a point where Schwarber's going, Hoskins is going, Castellanos is going, Bryce gets back to the lineup like we all envisioned, that's a team that should make a playoff spot.
Yes. I mean, they have a lot of talent on this team. And just regarding center field, for our listeners, everyone knows that I've been more Playo Dubel over the other guys, but in the same breath, he's been horrendous. So, like, I'm not going to say, like I said with Hoskins, I can sit here and admit when someone's been just atrocious or they've been good. The route he took the other night was just fucking, excuse my language, it was just terrible. And then he had an at bat the other night, Dave, with the game on the line, where he went down on 3 pitches with 3 sliders in the dirt, which I even texted you and said that was the worst at bat I've ever seen. Matt Vierling should be, look, he's not a great defender either in center. He's more probably built for the corners in terms of, but he can play a serviceable center field. It should be him every day. With that said, I'm not trying to throw a jab at anyone, but I would still rather play Odubel over Mickey Moniak. With that said,
it's two not great options.
Yeah.
In terms
bring
of
up Musiotti or whatever.
Whatever happened to him? He disappeared.
There you go.
Him and Maton got sent to a different planet for a little bit. I don't know where they are. Kevin, we got about 8 minutes left. I want to jump to the starting pitching depth, because this was something that we highlighted several times in the offseason, the idea of, adding a 6th or a 7th starter. And now we're starting to kind of feel the effects. Ranger Suarez went to the IL. Zach Eflin on the IL. Kyle Gibson kind of really been struggling his last couple of starts. He gave you 2 innings the other night, and you're looking, and look, credit to Bailey Falter and Christopher Sanchez for getting a job done this week. But with a series against the Cardinals up next, Toronto after that, you don't want to be using Bailey Falter and Christopher Sanchez. I think starting pitching is their biggest need right now. I just don't think you're going to be able to survive the gauntlet that is July, August, and September with, Bailey Falter and Christopher Sanchez as your only depth options. How worried are you about the pitching? Do you think they need to go get like a proper number 2, number 3 to stack at the top, or do you think they just need to add some depth at the back of the rotation?
I look at it more, David, like when the Phillies added Joe Blanton in '08. I don't think they need a big time number 1 or 2. Would love it if they want to go do that. Yeah, sure. But I do agree though that they could use another arm. Just even in the sense of, and look, Zach Eflin is my guy for years now. He's been my guy. I think he's very good. I think he's very talented, but he just cannot stay healthy. And it's nauseating because I want the guy to succeed so much, and we see flashes of it. But every year he ends up on the injured list, even if it's for a week or 2 at a time. So with that said, and I'm not as worried about Ranger Suarez as you are. I know you've been down on him this year. I think he's a quality number 5 at worst. His biggest issue is he just needs to go a little bit deeper in the games. And I also think the Phillies need to not try to push him like they had to start a couple weeks ago where I think he went 6 strong and they tried to push him back out for the 7th and it kind of blew up in their face. He's not a Nola or Wheeler. There's no reason to push him for an extra inning. Just, take what he can give you. But yeah, I think that they could use a middle to back of the rotation arm for sure. Because you're right. I don't want to see Bailey Falter out there. I do think Christopher Sanchez has the potential to be a nice piece. But with that said, yeah, I mean, especially right now, they have 2 guys on the IL. I agree. I think it's their biggest need. And I do think it's something they'll address. I don't think that this is going to be a team that's going to sit on their hands, especially if they're in a playoff spot at the deadline. Like the last couple of years, they've been a couple games out when it comes to the deadline, which still like they should still be active. But I think the fact that there's a possibility that they're going to be anchored into a playoff spot come that time about 2, 3, 4 weeks from now. But I don't know. It's going to be tough to see because it seems that once because we were concerned about the offense has picked it up. Then we were concerned about the bullpen picked it up, and now we're concerned about the rotation. So it seems every time we're concerned about one of these pieces, they step up. So it'll be interesting to see. But in terms of the top of the rotation arm, they have 2 aces. So yeah, I don't think that's something they necessarily need. But I did float to you Noah Syndergaard. I mean, if they want to go knocking on that door, I mean, he's on an expiring deal and the Angels aren't going anywhere. So why not see what's up?
Yeah, and knowing what we know about Dave Dombrowski, this is his MO, right? Is stuff that rotation full of as many good starting pitchers as possible. We saw it last year with his Kyle Gibson addition, and say what you want about Gibson, whether he's been good or bad, like that was his big move, was going and getting an all-star pitcher.
He's certainly better than Spencer Howard. He stinks.
Certainly better than Spencer Howard. But yeah, that's where I kind of think, maybe he goes and gets someone who's a number 3 on a good day and a number 4 on a bad day, and you squish him in there and kind of let him, Ranger and Kyle Gibson, battle for who's actually in the rotation.
Who's going to get playoff innings?
Who's going to get playoff innings? Because I think that's my biggest fear. If we're thinking playoffs, you got Wheeler, you got Nola, great. After that, I'm not comfortable with any of those guys taking them out of the postseason.
It's one of those things where, like I said, like I would be fine with Eflin if he could stay healthy, but he can't stay healthy.
Yeah, and especially with the knee, like it's not going to get better the more he pitches. It's only going to get worse, and we're kind of seeing that this year, where like he started the season and he was fine and everything's going great, and then he progressively got more and more injured, and now he's got to take 2-3 weeks off, and then in a month he's probably going to have to take another week off, and he's almost going to be on innings limit the rest of the year, just because it's not something that gets better with time. It only gets worse.
Yep. Now I fully agree, man. So it'll be interesting to see how they decide to attack it, but it is exciting to be talking about stuff like that because it signals the Phillies have a chance here, and they certainly do, David. It's there for the taking.
It certainly is. I'm expecting a big trade deadline from Dave. This is a huge week. 4 against St. Louis, and then
huge weekend. This is the biggest weekend of the year so far.
This is in St. Louis on the road. Your rotation's kind of all over the place. You're still missing some pieces on offense. You walk out of there with the split, you're feeling decent. You win 3 or 4, you're feeling really, really good.
Win 3 or 4, man. Feeling really good.
You're feeling really good. Kevin, with all that said, I think we're running low on minutes here. Thanks to everyone who watched or listened today. Again, you can find us on Twitter, Facebook, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Google Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. All those links, including our personal Twitter links, will be down below. We're running giveaways all the time on Twitter, so definitely follow the account at Bullpen Blues Pod and get involved in those. Kevin, with that said, for the Bullpen Blues podcast, and we'll talk to you all in a couple of days.
Go Phils.